The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app.
Download now for free.
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Let's freaking go. Playing for a national championship on this Monday. First time for the men since 1999, the 98 football season. Hit the like and subscribe button. It doesn't get any better than this. And I'm telling you right now, Tennessee fans, you deserve it. And I'm happy for you. I'm objective. I try not to root, but it's hard not to root for people. And I root for you, Tennessee fans, because you've been through Hades over the past decade plus. So good luck to you guys out there. Travis says, I'm as nervous as Caleb meeting Stephen Hawking. I would be nervous meeting Stephen Hawking. Caleb, how are you, sir? Ready to roll and watch the Vols play for a national title? If so, hit like and subscribe.
I am very good, Dave, or I'm doing very well. Excuse me. I just want to point out something real quick. You said the men are playing for their last national title since 1999 for the 98 title. Tennessee baseball is the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament.
And that was major sport. I wasn't counting track. That was major sport. I wasn't counting track.
Yes, major sport. Okay, fair enough. Tennessee baseball is the number one overall seed in this NCAA tournament. The last time the number one overall seed won the national title in baseball, 1999.
That's pretty strong, and I don't want to rip the track team at all. They've won titles, but whatever reason, the NCAA designates major sports, and it is not designated as major sports.
Also, the star of that track team has gotten caught in quite a few scandals with the Olympics. Let's just point that out.
I don't want to go down that road. This is a day for celebration and a day that really, let's be honest with you, probably shouldn't have happened. It didn't look like the Vols were even in Texas A&M's league on Saturday, but sure enough, they proved they were, and they won not with small ball, but a low score and home runs on Sunday to advance to game 3. But certainly if you're a casual observer and you watched game 1, Caleb, you said to yourself, man, that Orange team's not even in the same league as that A&M team.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I wasn't getting that vibe, though. I was getting the vibe of Tennessee was just not catching it on opportunities because Tony Vitello, now we can debate on whether or not this was a good or a bad idea. He approached this series as if it was a regular 3-game series for a weekend. He didn't do anything different. And I know they say you're supposed to do that. I feel like if it's baseball, though, you do what the Diamondbacks did in 2001 and just alternate Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson and say, forget the rest of our staff. But that's just me. But
no, I tend to. It's funny you brought that up. I tend to agree with that. Now, if he wins a national title, we're both wrong, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. But I tend to agree with that. I don't know why, but baseball people tend to get ingrained in traditional thinking. And like Tony Vitello is ahead of the curve. Vitello is ahead of the curve in a lot of ways, but he's just kind of another coach sometimes when it comes to decisions about baseball philosophy, which I kind of respect. He's got that old school to him, even though he looks like Ricardo Montalban in his prime.
So the reason that this stood out to me was because he played with fire in the sense of doing that it was going to give Tennessee advantage as the series extended and as things got deeper. But by the time things got deeper, Tennessee would also maybe be in a hole, at which point the pressure would be magnified. And he didn't worry about and that's exactly what happened, by the way. Tennessee got in a hole. They stranded 8 runners yesterday. And they also, Texas A&M brought in a pitcher with an 8.31 ERA. they were working the Texas A&M pitchers, and you just kept thinking at some point this pitch count has to catch up to Texas A&M and their lack of depth, right? At some point.
You would think.
And finally it did in the 7th and the 8th innings with 2 2-run shots to secure the win for Tennessee. But man, they worked the entire rotation, it felt like, for Texas A&M before they finally were able to cash in on their depth advantage. And that was the problem. And Tony Vitello played with fire doing that. And Cal Stark, who hadn't had a hit the entire College World Series, sends a 2-run shot to extend the lead for Tennessee yesterday. I cannot believe I had to call out a lot of Tennessee fans on Twitter because I cannot believe a lot of them wanted Cal Stark benched because of his lack of offense. Guys, do you not realize how valuable a catcher is for the pitching? Like, a catcher's not there.
It's huge. It should be a coach on the field. I thought that Tony Vitello almost hung with you want to win game 1 a little bit too long. I thought that he should have probably chucked that when they got down by 6 at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb. Now, they ended up getting within 4. So my logic, again, is flawed. Tony Vitello was right, because if you can get within 1 swing of the bat, which is 4 runs, right, theoretically, if you can get within 1 swing of the bat to tie in the game, well, then you play it like it's a regular game. My issue is with when you're down by more than that, I'm probably going to back off, have a pitcher eat up some innings, and have a fresh bullpen for the next game. But no matter, he knows more about he's forgotten more about baseball than I know. So hit that like and subscribe button. I think Tennessee is in good hands. You'll be in good hands with Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. Again, click the like and subscribe button. Who has stood out, or what has stood out to you to this point? And we open it up to some comments from the message board. Maybe the guys that have stood out are a couple of guys that we really thought would have a major impact. And this on our message board, if Tears and Simo wake up, we will win by 10. What do you make of Tennessee's 2 most explosive players early in the World Series being incredibly average in the finals, Caleb?
I think they've been average partially because, and I can't believe we're criticizing Tony Vitello because you're right, he knows so much more than we do, but I think Tony Vitello overcoached the first game. And yes, because Josh Reynolds, the A&M pitcher that came in the mid innings, remember, left a lot of balls over the plate that Tennessee struck out looking on. And that was based on the scouting report of his tendency to throw sliders. So Tony Vitello clearly had his players plan to take a lot of pitches because there was the assumption that he was going to throw a lot of sliders. They lost the guessing game. Josh Reynolds hung so many balls over the plate that they could have sent out of the park. And the truth of the matter was, it was because they were anticipating sliders in all of those. And he just hung a ton of fastballs, and they did not cash in. So I think they wouldn't have looked so average if they hadn't, this is a weird thing to say, if they hadn't over-scouted their opponent and their pitchers. I think that's what cost them.
Boy, by the way, Dylan, I thought nailed it. Infield defense must show up tonight. And there's also a couple of errors in the outfield as well, but I'm more concerned about the infield. And let's talk about what could undermine Tennessee. It's errors, and I don't understand this team at times. Again, we're criticizing a team that's one win away from winning a national championship. So please keep this in perspective and don't get overboard about we're being critical, because I'm not trying to do that. But I will tell you this: why this team lacks focus in the field is beyond me. If you would have told me they would have made some of the mistakes that they have made throughout the season and the amount of errors and the timely errors, there's no way I would have had them in the finals. But here they are, because I think they're that good in other areas.
Yeah, it's weird because you're right. That's been their one weakness all year. I mean, Tennessee's top 10 in ERA, top 5 in offense. I mean, it's like everything you could ask for, but their fielding percentage, they're outside of the top 50. They're number 51 nationally. Now, that's not bad. I mean, there's a ton of college baseball teams, but when you compare that to what they're good at everywhere else, That's the one thing that could undo them. I think part of this, remember on Saturday, Tony Vitello, again, this was him going as if it's a regular 3-game series. And me and you were thinking, man, don't you want to knock them out in 2 games and take the pressure off? And Tony Vitello's like, I'm going to treat it like a regular series. Part of that was Hunter Inslee's a little banged up. So he says, I'm not going to have Hunter Inslee play center field on the first night because I want him ready to full go on Sunday and Monday if we need him.
But you didn't think for a second, hold on now. Let me make sure we're on the same page. You didn't think he'd handle it any different, did you? I knew that he was still going to go with the bullpen starting mode mentality on Friday. I knew that, yeah, there was somebody who's going to go out there for an inning and a half at most and get knocked out of the game.
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew Tony Vitello was going to do that. That's how he approaches everything. And that's always been his philosophy. But the Hunter Inslee thing did cost Tennessee a little bit in the field on Saturday when Chapman was in right field and made a comedy of errors.
But I'm talking about the pitching. You didn't think that he was getting back to pitching. You didn't think he was going to switch up anything. I mean,
No. I didn't think he was going to switch up anything. I was just talking about the reason they made those errors. Tennessee wins the game Saturday without those 3 errors, and this series is over. I mean, Tennessee's already national champs. It's because they had issues in right field, because they had tears in center field, because he wanted to save Hunter Inslee, because Hunter Inslee was banged up and he wanted him 100% in center field on Sunday and Monday. That was Tony Vitello. My mind is, no, get him out there early and you can end the series early. And I mean, you don't want to dig the 1-0 hole.
Let me ask you this question. And it's brought to you by our good friends at Banks and Jones. Which team, based off 2 games, do you think is better? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks and Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. I'll be the first to say I don't know A&M like I know Tennessee, because I've seen all of Tennessee's games. I haven't seen all of A&M's games. But I think Tennessee is a better baseball team because their pitching in these type of series is backloaded. Now, A&M might have something, Caleb, that I don't know about. Okay, they might have I know their staff's great and deep, but I believe simple question, easy answer, maybe long-winded answer. Tennessee is the better team. Who is the better team? I ask you, Caleb. Today's tough question.
I think ever so slightly Tennessee is the better team. If both teams are healthy, I think A&M would be the better team. But with A&M banged up, they have one of their best pitchers out. They have one of their everyday starters out. I mean, they're fully healthy. A&M, I think, is slightly better having watched his teams. And look, Tennessee's deeper in the pitching rotation, but let's be honest, Dave. A&M's pitchers have some nasty stuff, don't they?
Oh, they do. Yeah. And somebody told me that really knows college baseball. I think I mentioned it last week on the show, that watch for A&M's pitching. I mean, that's the scary part. It's kind of like playing a goalie, a great goalie in hockey that's red hot. You could go out there and go against a great pitching staff and swing a good bat and have a good eye and still lose. I mean, if the stuff's that nasty, it happens. So we'll see what happens tonight. But today's tough question, we preview the game tonight. It is on our YouTube page as well, where you can take part. Hit that like and subscribe button on a championship Monday for the Tennessee Vols.
Today's tough question. Take a side.
Take a stand.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
What will happen tonight? Caleb Calhoun. The poll question is on the message board. Give it to us. It's also today's tough question, brought to you by our good friends at Apex Apparel.
So what happens in Game 3 of the College World Series Finals? Vols win a blowout, Vols win a pitcher's duel, or Texas A&M wins? I did not have a shootout that Tennessee wins because I think if it's a high scoring game, Tennessee wins a blowout. I don't think A&M's bats have any chance of hanging with Tennessee's bats in this game.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I guess I'm going to sound like Homer Dave, but I'm going to go Tennessee a blowout because I've got Tennessee winning the series. And you're right. A pitcher's duel to me would benefit or be more likely to result in a win by Texas A&M. So I guess I'm going to go with that option. It may sound a little homerish, but I'm going to go with that. Now, what needs to happen for that to happen, Caleb, for Tennessee to win big? Is it as simple as SEMO and Tiers have got to get on track? I mean, they were red hot. They were College World Series superstars, and they've been pretty average. I'll pull up their stats, but how do you explain that? And for the young men, you don't want them to remember the rest of their lives not showing up and playing their best and having their best performance at the College World Series. That would stink.
It would. Well, Xander, who is on the mound tonight, has to have the same type of performances he's been having in big moments all year. That stands out the most. And yeah, the bats have to show up. I mean, it's pretty simple on that. Christian Moore needs to not let the anger get the best of him. He was clearly very upset yesterday when he walked on one of the walks. I'm not going to show it, but he had a profanity-laced tirade at the pitcher. So I think.
What did you make of that incident? Wanted to get into that.
I think he felt he was targeted a few times. And Tony Vitello, by the way, remember Tony Vitello challenged a play where he clearly wasn't hit, but he wanted to send a message of he felt that A&M's pitchers were targeting Tennessee's hitters and were trying to intimidate him a little bit.
Do you think they brought it inside too much, too often?
No.
And I've been an umpire, so I think I can share some insight to this. But what do you think?
I don't think they brought it too much inside. I think the truth is they didn't want to pitch to Christian Moore because he's been tearing them up.
Yeah,
and
see, I've got zero problem with it, and here's the reason why they haven't been consistently high. Now, where I've got a real problem, and I've thrown a pitcher out of a game for high fastballs, and at some point you have got to stop that because you could kill somebody. I mean, let's be real honest. I mean, you could. Unless they get high above the letters, that is my rule. So did you think they were high above the letters?
No. There was one pitch on that series which Vitello challenged that was high above the letters. And everything else, I think they tried to play a little bit of an intimidation game. Yeah, but I don't think they were trying to actually I didn't see too many pitches directed at a player. Now, I'm with you. People call me crazy. If someone's throwing at your head constantly, I think it's fair game to charge them out with a bat. I'm totally for that.
Well, okay. Not with a bat. But anyway, but I'm a little 50-50 on it, so I understand because either object could kill you. It's just a little bit harder to
if they can throw a ball at you, why can't I charge them out with a bat? I mean, Mike Piazza should have whacked Roger Clemens over the head with the bat and cracked his skull. Okay? You
don't want SEMO to attack an A&M pitcher with a bat tonight. Today's tough question. I'm just joking. We're not going to do that. So where does the poll question stand right now? What do people believe is going to happen tonight?
So tonight.
Great point, Elias, by the way. I'll get right back to it. Go ahead.
68% thinks Tennessee wins a pitcher's duel. 32% think they win a blowout. Guys, if it's a pitcher's duel, Tennessee has the pitchers to do it, but they don't want a pitcher's duel.
No, Tennessee can win a pitcher's duel, but that's going to be a 1-in-3 shot. And it's still going to take a great performance at the plate against a very good pitcher to be able to pull that off, even if it is an air quote pitcher's duel. So we'll see what SEMO. Now, how concerned are you about Tiers, if at all? What do you make of him to this point? Because both of those guys came into the finals as superstars. And let's throw a poll question up there. I'll do that while you tell me your thoughts on Piers. And that is simply, who are you more concerned about, SEMO, Tiers, or nobody?
Well, I think with Tiers, I I think he's really been. I think he's been Nick Saban uses the term press, and I think he's been pressing because we're talking about a guy who has, let's see, he's had 9 at bats this series, and Dave, he struck out 6 times. So Tier strikes me as, for the football analogy, guys, you know that running back that is trying to hit the 80-yard run every play?
Yes.
Instead
Barry
of the 4-yard?
Sanders.
Yes, well, Barry Sanders usually did hit the 80-yard run every play, so it didn't matter. The one who will sacrifice the 4 or 5-yard gain trying to hit that 80-yard run every play. I feel like that's Tiers right now. I feel like that's Tiers. He's trying to, he's trying to knock it out of the park every single time, I feel like. He's left now. To be fair, I don't believe he's left anybody on base. So I don't think he's been as greedy as some of the other players because, yeah, as far as I'm aware, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but, oh, no, I take that back. No, he was 0 of 4 on Saturday with runners in scoring position. He didn't leave anybody on base yesterday, but he was 0 of 4 on Saturday with runners in scoring position. That tells me by the way, 3 strikeouts. He saw somebody on second or third. He saw red, and he tried to hit the long ball. That's what he saw. And he came up short both times. So I think this time, he's got to back off a little bit, just play his game. But I also think that, again, one of the advantages Tennessee has, don't over-scout A&M's pitchers in this one. They've worked their rotation. They've worked the pitch count. A&M's pitching, how many pitches did they throw yesterday, Dave, that were 100 miles an hour?
Oh, they had the stat. It was a lot.
It was a lot. You can't really, they've thrown, all of their best arms have 70-plus pitches already. So it's hard for me to think that Tennessee doesn't have the advantage. Don't over-scout them. Now, stay patient, but don't try to play the guessing game with them. You don't really have to play that in this one.
Dealing with a great point. Getting back to Semo for a second. I just need Semo to control himself. Don't get giddy and chase sliders 3 feet off the plate like Burke yesterday. Control himself. You alluded to that. He seems to let his emotions at some point control him, and that's not good. Other key players as Tennessee will play for a national championship. Unbelievable tonight against Florida State. So other key thoughts heading into the game tonight. 15 seconds from Neubert Collision Center.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
Dave, the commercial's not playing.
His vision of what this business needed to be,
the commercial
we're still trying to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Dave?
Tennessee will have...
Dave, the ad never played. There was a technical difficulty there.
Oh, that's not good. We'll try that again. How about now?
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we're still trying to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Better?
I apologize. I didn't see it play. Everybody else is correcting me. There was a technical difficulty on my end. My apologies, guys. The ad played twice. I didn't see it play on my end.
Well, you just know where you need to go if you're in Knoxville and you have any sort of body damage issue to your car. So we know.
I apologize. That's on me.
Neubert Collision Center in Knoxville. We love them. They proudly support the Vols. So please, you have an option, by the way, if you have a wreck, you can tell your insurance agent who you want to work on it. So why wouldn't it be Neubert Collision Center? We love them so much. We play their commercial twice. Caleb, what other key players tonight besides, I think we've mentioned Xander, Semo, we've mentioned Tiers, Drilling. Who else?
Hunter Inslee in center field is key because Hunter Inslee out there should cut down on the errors significantly. I think that, again, Kirby Connell, he only threw 1 pitch yesterday. If Tennessee can get a lead, they're going to need him to close it out. He's got to do what he's done all year. He gave up a hit yesterday, but he can't do that again in this one. And I'm going to keep calling it. You guys can hate him. Cal Stark. Cal Stark is crucial. I don't care if he goes 0 for 12 in this game. Cal Stark is crucial to this game. So those are the main ones. And then obviously Xander being on the mound tonight is going to be crucial.
Yeah, you have Christian Moore, Blake Burke, and Billy Amick at the top of Tennessee's order. They're 7 for 25. So at the end of the day, I think the most important stats are going to be what those guys bat. And I could throw, if I wanted to, tiers, but I'll make it simple. Those guys have got to produce much more than roughly 3.5 hits per
I think
game.
you mean 4 for 25 in the finals.
No, they're combined 7 of 25 in the series. Do you want to double check that on me?
Yeah, if they were 7 of 25, that wouldn't be terrible. But I'm reading
Christian Moore, Blake Burke, and Billy Amick. 7 of 25 at this point.
Because Christian Moore is 1 of 8 in the series, and Blake Burke is 2 of 9, and Amick is 1 of 7.
Okay, so excuse me, that's even worse than I thought. So 5 of 25, they've got to hit much better than that. And the other stat that I want to keep a close eye on is simply errors. Now, we mentioned infield errors, but that's not a separate stat. But at the end of the day, Tennessee can't be giving up. I mean, like you said, they win game 1 if they don't give up errors.
Yeah, they win game 1. I mean, they don't lose. They don't have to come back to beat Florida State if they don't give up errors to open the College World Series. It's been a problem for them the whole time. So I think that's, I think that's a big problem. But again, part of this has been Inslee being banged up, and he's going to be back in center field. As he was last night. He'll be back in tonight. So I think that should help fix the issue. Many people are, I just want to address this because people are asking a lot of times why Christian Moore is more the leadoff guy. That is a new sabermetric philosophy in baseball. You don't really put your fastest player as the first hitter anymore. You actually put your best slugger as the leadoff hitter. Analytics show you should actually do that. The whole cleanup hitter philosophy is kind of a disproven theory in baseball.
Well, I don't know, it's disproven. It's disagreed with.
It's disproven. It's more important that your best hitter have more at-bats than have the chance to clean up the bases and drive in more runs.
I can see that, but I'm not going to discount 100 years baseball thinking. I mean,
100 years of baseball thinking is wrong.
No, I still understand the reasoning to have your slugger in the 4th position, but I would put him in the 1st position to get him more hits, exactly like you said. So I agree with it, but I don't think that the analytic thing is nearly as cut and dry. I say what is cut and dry. You got somebody in your family who's getting close to Medicare age, or you are. Did you know you can get complete 100% free Medicare consultation from Medicare Misty?
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, Caleb, so let's get your final prediction for the game tonight. Who you got?
I got Tennessee, and I'm with you. I got them winning a blowout. I don't think Texas A&M has the bats to hang with them. Tennessee has worked their pitch count for their best pitchers. And so, look, I did pick Tennessee to win in 2, but I'm sticking now with them in 3. The longer the series went, the more it favored Tennessee. We knew that from the start. So now that they're in game 3, they have all the advantages.
I think Tennessee gets just enough clutch hitting. You look back at it and you say that, and I sound like I'm contradicting myself because I don't think that Tennessee wins a pitcher's duel, but I'm not sure that 6-4 in college baseball, Caleb, would you define that as a pitcher's duel? I mean, to me, a pitcher's duel was more like 2-3.
No, 6-4 is not a pitcher's duel at all.
Yeah. Okay. Even in baseball. I mean, even in baseball where they score more runs, it's not a pitcher's duel. So I got Tennessee with some clutch hits. I got Florida State with not clutch hits because I think Tennessee's better at the plate, and I think Tennessee wins 6-4. So it's not a pitcher's duel, but it's a close game. A close game benefits Florida State. The lower the score is. I'm sorry.
You said Florida State.
A&M, excuse me. I still keep saying that. I've always said that since I was like a kid. I think it's because they both wear similar colors. A low-scoring game benefits Texas A&M, no question. Anything over 3-4 runs benefits Tennessee, and I think that's where it will be. Coming up on the program, Tennessee with a monstrous commitment and why Tony Vitello is one of the Vols' very best recruiters. Hang tight. More after this. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show.
Who?
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Show represented by Banks and Jones. Play to win. Do you like analytics? Just in general, like prefer, not adhere to, but prefer.
Yes.
Like.
I'm a big analytics guy. Love analytics.
Okay. I should know that. Dumb question. Is there a part of you that kind of harkens back the days of old? See, I'm not a big analytics guy because 90% of the time I agree with analytics because I've watched enough sports where I know that I don't know the numbers in my head like 67.8%, but I know it's better to do this than that most of the time. So most of the time my thinking coincides with the analytics. But there are some times where I do kind of miss I got a hunch here.
I don't think that you dismiss the got a hunch part, though. And I mean, I've never been one to say fully dismiss it. Now, baseball more than any other sport, I'm almost solely analytics in baseball. But I'm with you, I miss it. But the reason I kind of miss it is because analytics has ruined sports in this way. People have figured out the best way to play, and newsflash, the best way to play is not the most entertaining. So what happened in baseball? Everybody valued power. Very few balls put in play now. It's a strikeout or a home run, it feels like when you watch Major League Baseball. What about basketball? There's no running your motion offense anymore. It's all about spacing in a three-point shot, isn't there? The mid-range is dead because of analytics.
Pretty much.
And it's not fun to watch.
I love our message board. You legit could put a computer with a hat on it at the Braves dugout, and there would be no difference. Apologies. I'm just on a rant now. No apologies needed, Trevor. That's a very good point. Dylan, I could probably put this on a t-shirt. Go with analytics until you can't is the motto. Yeah.
I mean, analytics. Now, the hard part is, so for instance, I actually use analytics to show why Michael Jordan is better than LeBron and also why Kobe's the most overrated player in the history of basketball and probably professional sports. But did you see Yahoo did a thing over the weekend where it gets hard? It's like, see, numbers kind of came out where Michael Jordan's numbers were inflated when he played at home in the 80s because a lot of the games weren't televised, and the box score and the scorekeeper would scorekeepers would inflate their home player stats a lot.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's a lot to unpack. But let me ask you this. So is there a player that could come up to you on Tennessee's staff? And I want to ask the message board this as well. Is there a player that could come up to you and say, I've got to get the ball right now and take the mound? Or you've got to let me pinch hit for this guy, that you would say to yourself, Caleb, I'm listening to this guy and I may go against analytics because he's just that good?
No, there's not one player that could do that for me. It's not one player.
All right.
It's by the way,
any of the players that you would do that for, like Simo, are already on the field, to be clear, because you do believe in them. That's why you have them on the field.
Yes. But I mean, I will just tell you, like, one of the dumbest things I used to hear, and I'm sorry, you're a Yankee fan. I don't care. Derek Jeter's one of the most overrated players in the history of sports. The guy was never the best player on his team, but all I would hear was, but he was a great leader and he led the team. There's not much leadership required in baseball, guys. Okay. It's the most individualized team sport possible. Don't sit there and tell me that Derek Jeter emotionally had the Yankees ready to play in the World Series every time. He was never the best player on that team.
Peyton Manning, what do you think of Caleb Calhoun's take on Derek Jeter?
Like, that is total bullshit.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, we got to move on.
Kobe was a career sidekick.
To get to Tennessee's newest commitment. Charles House is a Vol. I thought that Tennessee had a great shot at House, especially after his official visit weekend a week ago. How big of a pickup is House for Tennessee, Caleb Calhoun?
Underrated pickup, but a big one. He is only 6'3", 288. I think, given his 6'3" frame, they probably want to get him to, I would say, 310 when he gets to Knoxville.
Sure.
And I think that is where they'll get him. But I think, Dave, this is weird because Jeremy Pruitt recruited the guy I'm about to name, but I'm getting very much Elijah Simmons vibes from Charles House. Like what you talk about, the potential of Elijah Simmons. House is superb.
Well, and for those that haven't heard, we have reported on several occasions, and this is a fact, that Elijah Simmons is one of those guys that if he gets healthy could go from beat up, banged up average to healthy superstar. We believe that at Off the Hook Sports. So I just wanted to update everybody. So you think House, maybe that type of guy at 6'3", 288 pounds. He's also the number 14 player in the state of Carolina, which isn't high, but I would take a guy from Carolina if he was every bit the same player as a guy from Washington State, because I think Carolina can help the Vols long-term in recruiting. And I know you agree with that.
1000% agree with that. And this is the Charlotte area. Want to know who else comes from the Charlotte area? This guy named James Pierce.
James Pierce.
This guy named James Pierce. Yep. And another North Carolina kid on the roster, David Hobbs from Concord, North Carolina. So I think Tennessee loves their defensive lineman coming from North Carolina, which kind of goes all the way back to this guy named Leonard Little, who was also from North Carolina and a defensive lineman. And so I think that this is by the way, Concord is also part of the Charlotte area. So Tennessee has a defensive line pipeline happening right now into the Charlotte area, which is a big deal. That's a really big deal.
Well, and it could be a monster deal if Tennessee is able to land the number one offensive tackle in that area and also the nation. Out of Charlotte, Providence, Day, it's David Sanders. He had a top 6. I think Tennessee is very much in that. He visited Tennessee on June the 14th, Alabama this past weekend. He'll visit Ohio State this weekend, South Carolina. He had visited Clemson. He's visited, and Georgia he has visited. But this is one of the top prospects in the nation. So when you go back to Charles House, you ask yourself, is this a huge pickup in terms of the actual player? Well, I mean, we could debate that a little bit. Caleb's made a good argument for him. The ratings people think he's good, maybe not great. But Georgia had shown a lot of interest in the 6'3", 288-pounder from North Mecklenburg High School in Charlotte. Gives you that tie into Charlotte. I would take a guy who's borderline in Charlotte before I would take a guy who's borderline in Arizona. I'll tell you that right now.
Absolutely. And also, then there's just the fact that Charlotte and North Carolina kids tend to work out pretty well. And so we talk about where players are overrated or underrated. My experience with Tennessee's recruiting North Carolina, I don't think Tennessee's had many busts from North Carolina. Do you, Dave?
No.
And
I don't think there are many busts from North Carolina. I think it's a little bit like a poor man's Georgia, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, a poor man's Atlanta. Poor man's Atlanta.
Charlotte, you mean? Yeah. Which is funny because I thought
Charlotte is a poor man's Atlanta. Excuse me.
Yeah, and it's funny because I thought Charlotte, because it's part of the Tech Triangle, would be closer to something like Nashville, but it seems like Charlotte kids have a lot more Southern roots, I guess, and it's not as,
Explain that Tech part, because after years of covering recruiting, I've noticed a common theme among the guys at Charlotte, and I'm wondering if that's part of it. What is the Tech? What do you mean by the Tech Triangle?
So there's a Tech Triangle, which Knoxville's right in the heart of, which is why people think Tennessee is just in a unique position to recruit well because of all the people, so many families moving there, and it's the North Carolina area. The North Carolina's down to Atlanta and up to Nashville. Now, as I'm saying this, I'm starting to think there's some debate on whether or not the Tech Triangle in North Carolina is more Charlotte or if it's the Raleigh-Durham area. And it's probably more the Raleigh-Durham area. So I think maybe that's why the Charlotte kids work out more, because the Charlotte kids are a little more rooted in the South. So I think you get kids from Raleigh, you might need to watch out, because there's a lot of, with the Tech Triangle, what happens is a lot of online media descends on those places too. And when online media descends on those places, you get recruiting experts descending on those places.
Well, I'll give you this about Charlotte. And it's funny you bring that up. It's an affluent town. The kids that I covered there, much like Nashville, typically were very well-spoken, well-educated, always qualified. So they were quality kids. And I've been to places it's not a race thing, but whether it's inner city or some rural places, I've been in places that are country, and trust me, Caucasians they can match anybody as far as having issues off the field. I like the fact that they're in Charlotte, because the guys that I've covered in Charlotte, black, white, brown, different, doesn't matter, I'm just thinking over the years that I've done this, Caleb, have been really good off-field students. I guess the one example to the contrary would be Riley Ferguson, maybe the quarterback. But Tennessee did well with Marquez North. And then if you go back to the 90s, there are about 500 players that came out of the Carolinas that did well, right?
That is true. Now, as we say this, James Pierce did get in trouble in December for a traffic violation.
Right. But that's one out of all the Charlotte guys that I've covered.
No,
Montario Hardesty was from North Carolina. Somebody asked about Jalen Hyatt.
He's from South Carolina.
Yes. So
is Montario Hardesty.
Montario's from South Carolina.
Yeah, they're both from South Carolina.
Well, where's Montario?
Hardesty and Hyatt Hardesty and Hyatt are both South Carolina.
Okay. I had on my mind that he was from North Carolina for some reason.
Oh, no, you're right. Montario Hardesty is from North Carolina, Neubert. Okay. Also, again, Neubert, Montario Hardesty is one of the best people possible, right? That you could have.
Yeah.
Montario Hardesty.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
So I think, getting back to House real quick. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him is I think Tennessee, they're loading up on elite pass rushers, and many of their defensive tackles are the guys that help pave the way for the edge rushers, the Amari Thomases, the Omar Norman Lotts. They need those run stoppers, though. Like Elijah Simmons. If Elijah Simmons became a star, Dave, he'd be a run stopper, wouldn't he? More than anything else, like he'd be a dominant run stopper. And
yes, but I think he's more athletic to get upfield than maybe you're giving him credit for.
I'm thinking they need the Jesse Mahalona types. You know what I mean? The guy that'll that'll blow up the interior, wrap you up by your ankles, and won't let you get any yards on like a 3rd and 1. That is what Charles House is, to a T. So I think that is what they recruited him for. He's not going to be athletic in the sense of being a passer. He's not going to be that defensive tackle that gets 10 sacks like John Henderson did. but he might get 12 tackles for a loss because he's so good at blowing up plays.
Let's take a look here for a second, if we can, at where the North Carolina prospects are heading to this point. David Sanders, the number one prospect in the state, the offensive tackle out of Providence Day in Charlotte, is thought to be a Clemson lean. I don't believe that. I believe that one's more open. Isaiah Campbell, the number 2 player out of Durham, defensive lineman, has committed to Clemson. Bryce Davis out of Grimsley in Greensboro, North Carolina, is a defensive lineman. People think he's leaning to Georgia. Jordan Young out of Monroe, a safety, leaning towards Clemson. Then you have Jaden Blair that I'm told is leaning towards Notre Dame. So more teams are getting into the Carolina area. But let's face it, if you land David Sanders, no offense to House, but he's not the impact guy. If you land Sanders, you go in and get the number 1 offensive tackle out of North Carolina, where everybody is recruiting nowadays. It's not Nico getting the number 2 quarterback in the nation, but to pull that guy out of there that Georgia and Alabama and everybody wants would be the most monumental thing to happen in recruiting since Tennessee landed Nico Iamaleava.
Oh, it would be huge. And it would totally force us all to rewrite the book on Josh Heupel.
Most monumental?
Yes. We would have to overnight, because right now Josh Heupel's landing the guys you call war daddies, but he's getting 4-star in-state offensive linemen, and he's getting elite edge rushers, but that's because edge rushers are you want to play in Josh Heupel's system if you're an edge rusher, because there's going to be a lot of chances for you to rush the passer when he's running up the score. So I think that's natural to get those guys. You don't know if you're going to be able to get interior linemen and offensive linemen from top-notch talent from across the country, or even North Carolina, where you're competing with, the Clemsons, the Georgias, you're right, the Ohio States of the world. So this is big if Tennessee can land them. Now, one of the things that's really helping Tennessee, and one of the reasons there's a battleground in North Carolina right now, is Matt Brown, after a nice first year at North Carolina, was really locking off the state, but he really hasn't built on that. And now with Matt Brown, you see a 73-year-old guy who's been just above average. It's not a selling program anymore, right? If you're a top-notch recruit, do you really want to go play for the 73-year-old coach who in 5 years hasn't won more than 9 games?
No, very fair. Very fair. All right. So we had a question on the message board about recruiting. So we want to hit that. Isaiah Gibson is the player, the edge rusher, 6'4", 245 pounds out of Warner Robins, Georgia, that has decommitted to Southern California and from Southern California, and appears headed to Georgia, but Tennessee is in on that battle. I think he's going to be a Bulldog. I wouldn't get too excited for him, but I think it's fair to be excited, especially given the fact, Caleb, that he was once a commitment and now is not, or just around the time that he visited Tennessee. So that's exciting, but I don't think he's going to end up a Vol. Now, I want to tell a story, if I may, but it may sound a little bit crazy to some of you. It may even cause you to say, what the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Tony Vitello is currently the Vols' best football recruiter. Why? Because of what he's doing in Omaha, Nebraska. Here is my story, kids, and here is why you should be a fan of all sports, and the previous hatred of the Lady Vols among Tennessee football fans made no sense. Because let me tell you a little story about Terry Fair. Caleb, you know Terry Fair. Terry Fair played for the Detroit Lions, among other teams in the NFL. But before that, he was a volunteer. He was selected in the first round, was an All-American. Before that, he was a high school football player in Arizona that was considering local schools such as Arizona State. Why not stay west? That's what everybody does. And then one of those coaches came in and mentioned Tennessee. But all that Terry Fair had known about Tennessee is what he had seen that week against the Lady Vols. And he had seen the Lady Vols play on television, and he thought, that's exciting. I'm interested now in Tennessee. The same thing is happening for countless young men and women right now. Tony Vitello will help Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball, of course, Tennessee baseball. The Lady Vols in every sport has been an incredible positive for the University of Tennessee. Caleb, I had to go out of town for a show on Saturday, and I will tell you that every single, or I won't say every single television, but half the televisions in an Atlanta town were on the College World Series. That's in a pro town, Caleb. That Terry Fair ended up being a Vol, and there's somebody out there right now that's watching Tennessee and will end up being a Vol because of what Tony Vitello is doing. Dylan said it, and you're right. A rising tide lifts all boats. That's what I got to say. You?
Could even be a little deeper and more direct. Dave, do you remember, take his character aside. We don't have to talk about his character because I think we all think very lowly of him, the person. But do you remember Jameis Winston at Florida State?
Yes.
Do you remember when he was a pitcher too?
Yes.
Somewhere out there is a 5-star quarterback who wants to be able to pitch also. And you don't think Tennessee is going to be a selling point for that quarterback when Josh Heupel is your coach in football and then you get to play for Tony Vitello in baseball?
Interesting. Didn't think you'd go there, but is that a thing anymore? Would you take
Jameis
that?
Winston did it.
Okay, but that's what suddenly you don't realize how fast the years go by, Caleb. I mean, that's been suddenly a long time ago. Who's the last guy to do it?
That is true. I don't even know. But I just think of Jameis Winston. But the question would be this.
Wouldn't you like, okay, would you love to see Nico out there throwing for Tennessee?
He'd be so intimidating.
I mean, can you imagine being a right-handed batter and watching that ball come at you with his, where he would release the ball so far out? That's what was so scary about Randy Johnson was his long arm. It was a left-handed batter because he was a left-hander. You were scared to death because the release point was over your head, so it's going to hit you in the head, right? But no, it would come in and be a strike. How good would Nico be? Seriously.
Oh, it would be so amazing. It would be so good. I'm telling you, here's why coaches don't want to do this now. And I think it's stupid. They're like, we need it for spring practice because they have to learn things. Okay, Dave, do you really need your star quarterback in spring practice if they know the offense? Do you really need him?
Yes.
No,
yes.
you don't.
I'm going to argue that, and I'm going to say you're absolutely wrong there. There's no debate. No. And I'm not doing this just to create a controversy. You need your quarterback in spring camp. And if I was Josh Heupel, there's no way in hell that I would allow my quarterback to be a baseball player. I want to be very clear about that.
What if that's the only way you can get him? What if that's the only way you can get him?
Too bad. I'm going to get somebody else.
You are crazy. No, let him play. By the way,
you got to be there every moment of spring
ball. They could probably
ball.
take part in spring camp too. In a lot of the spring camps, if they're playing home baseball games, you practice in the morning, you play the game at night.
No.
I mean, you can do that.
No,
sorry.
I've seen their schedule. No, seriously, Cooper has held their schedule up like it is 9 to 6. I mean, it's a lot. It's more like 8 to 5. I mean, it's a lot.
You pitch once a week. You pitch once
I would
a week.
allow him to join the team after the season or after spring practice if he wanted to. He could join.
No, just don't hold practices on the days he's pitching. He's pitching once a week. I'm sorry. You guys are you're really going to sacrifice? Would you sacrifice Nico Iamaleava if he said once a week during the spring, I need to be able to pitch for baseball?
No,
you are ridiculous.
No.
What if it was Peyton Manning? What if it was Peyton Manning? What if you had Peyton Manning? You're like, would you be like, I'll go with Brandon Stewart?
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know in retrospect. At the time, Brandon Stewart was about 40% of the people thought that Brandon Stewart was the guy.
What we know now.
I wouldn't. Okay,
you have a choice between Peyton Manning, and you have to let him pitch once a week in the spring for 3 weeks of spring practice, where you don't even have to practice on those days, or Brandon Stewart. Because he'll be there. He won't be pitching those 3 weeks. So you need him more.
Update us on our poll question, if you can, for a second, as I remind people that my shirt right here that is embroidered and looks awesome, has Off the Hook Sports on it. If you're one of our audio platforms, was made by Apex Apparel Group Design. 15% off, save you some money in this tough economy, and they'll make sure that everything goes right. Just call Tyler at 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001. Or click below, mention Off the Hook Sports, get 15% off. Off the Hook Sports, 15% off. Let me throw this scenario at you. Let's say that Nico Iamaleava lives up to the hype. He's a Heisman candidate. He is one of the best players in the nation. And after a good run in the playoff or a championship or whatever the case may be, he comes to you and he says, I've just got this itch. I got to play some volleyball. Because he was one of the top prospects in volleyball. And their schedule is about the same as baseball, right?
Yes.
Would you let him play volleyball?
Well, I don't have that problem because Tennessee doesn't have a men's volleyball team.
Okay. But let's say they're starting a men's volleyball team, and the men's volleyball coach comes to Nico and says, you would change the sport at Tennessee. We need you. Nico, you are the man. Would you then do that? Would you allow him to be the star of the volleyball team?
No,
Was Tennessee...
I wouldn't allow him to be the...
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, one, volleyball...
I'm not done. I got the next part. Okay. So what would you allow him to do if he came to you and said, Dylan says, find him a church league volleyball team? Hell yeah. All right. So what would you say if he came to you in December and said, I've never wanted to before, but I've been a Michael Jordan fan, and I was watching his documentary, and Michael Jordan went and played baseball out of left field, pun intended, and enjoyed it for his dad. And I want to play baseball for the Diamond Vols because they were so exciting last year, and I'm leaving if you don't let me do it. What would you say to him?
I would let him be a pitcher.
Hell no. What are you talking about?
I would let him.
I literally, for those not on the video platform, I was just up in arms, literally.
The baseball season starts in February, well after football season's over. It goes through June. It only conflicts with spring practice, which is 3 weeks in March. And by the way, during those 3 weeks, he'd only pitch 3 times because you only pitch once a week in college baseball.
Okay. What about his health?
That's crazy.
What if Nico had season-ending injury playing baseball and then couldn't play football? No way. He ain't playing competitive anything. As a matter of fact, if I'm one of those advertisers that's giving him $2 million a year, it's written into his contract, he better not be playing pickup basketball. And I'm dead serious. Sorry, you're a pro now. You're not a college athlete anymore. You are a professional football player. We can paint it any way we want to.
Wait, you're an advertiser. Don't you want Don't you want your crown jewel playing multiple sports and being more visible? Come on. You're a better deal if he starts pitching for Tennessee.
Okay. As an advertiser, I have to weigh both. Now, what you're talking about is Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson got a ton of coverage because he played both. So you do have an angle from a marketing perspective. But remember, a lot of these advertisers go through the collectives, and the collectives want the team to be good. And I believe the collective thought would be that Nico endangering himself in another sport would not be a good idea.
You're not endangering himself. You have to play some odds here. You got to take a little risk. The odds of you endangering yourself by pitching once a week during baseball season are slim to none. And also think about revenue for a minute, Dave. You may think Josh Heupel, say Nico wins you a Heisman this year, and then he wants to go pitch. Now you're Danny White. My Heisman quarterback wants to pitch for my baseball program, and I need to sell tickets for baseball? What do you think will happen?
You don't need to sell tickets for baseball.
Wait. When it gets out to Knoxville, that Nico Iamaleava, the Heisman-winning quarterback, is on the mound tonight. You and I both know
you don't need to sell tickets.
You can jack up the prices, and everybody will show up. And ESPN will come down, and people will buy tickets out the wazoo to go see that. They would pay top dollar.
Hey now. All right. So you're just going to throw him out there and let him get hurt, and you don't care. I tell you who does care.
You're the one who said you would send him packing anyway if he didn't, if he wanted to do that. So it doesn't matter from your perspective.
Would you take 100% dedicated to the football Jake Merklinger, or would you take 80% dedicated to the football Nico? Brought to you by Don Self at State Farm. Customer service still matters. For 40 years, they built their business on taking care of their customers, the greater Chattanooga area, Collegedale and Ooltewah. Call 423-396-2126, 423-396-2126, or go to donself.net. That's donself.net. Taking 80% Merklinger. I would take 100% Merklinger dedicated to football, then an 80% Nico that has to play a little bit of baseball out of left field for no reason whatsoever. Who else is talking about this? Nobody, just us, Caleb.
I don't think that you're less committed to football if you're pitching once a week for baseball. What is that, like just one time a week, guys?
Maybe the best post ever on the message board. How can we further blow up and promote Nico? Think about this. Nico blows out his elbow, gets Tommy John surgery. Well, you said loses. No, gets more velocity throwing the football. Oh, no.
Yeah, Tommy John surgery would actually make Nico better. Could you imagine?
Dylan, that's the thing. I thought you were going the other direction. Nowadays, they're like 14-year-olds are getting voluntary Tommy John surgery from their parents. Did you know about that, Caleb? Because it makes
them so dangerous. I'm not a fan of that.
Oh, not a fan? How about they should be put in jail? I mean,
yeah,
that's
like the parents that like starve their daughters to get them in a beauty pageant. You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, I know somebody you do too. The late Mike Hamilton passed away from a procedure that was supposed to be completely safe, addressing the cancer that was riddling his body. But that wasn't supposed to be a dangerous surgery. Anytime you go into surgery, that's a bad thing. But what if Nico comes back with a bigger whip? What if
he's got Joe Milton's arm strength?
Okay, let me ask you this: who would have been the better who would have been the better pitcher, Joe Milton or Nico Iamaleava?
Oh, Milton easily. Pitching is much more about power than and quarterback is more about touch. You don't need as much touch when you're pitching, so Milton would be a heck of a pitcher, actually.
And he's a little bit of a loner too. I want to argue with you, but I can't. I think you're right.
You know how he should have been a pitcher. He should have asked Josh Heupel to go pitch. And if he had an offseason of training, he'd be pitching right now on the mound to try to win a national championship. He is an intimidating pitcher.
A bunch of new people in. I agree. I mean, intimidating on the mound too, just physically. Hit that like button. Take 1 second, please. Greatly appreciate it. Want your comments. And if you haven't subscribed, do so. We have a Lane Kiffin sighting. We do. Stay tuned.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Experience it all at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. Need a quick fix or maintenance? Visit our Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. Keep your Ford running smoothly with the experts in our service department. Ready for your next Ford? Our sales team is here to guide you to this 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Welcome back. Caleb says that Nico Iamaleava should give up football for baseball, or maybe a potential
Here
future
goes with the straw, man. That's
professional volleyball career. That's his idea. I mean, that's clearly not his idea.
There you go with the straw, man. That is not what I said.
That's not even recruiting. That's just being a smart A. That's not straw manning. That's not arguing. That's just being a smart A. That's kind of what I'm doing there. But I thought it was fun for a minute. Caleb also thinks that Nico and Joe Milton would make Cy Young quarterbacks, and I can give him all kinds of misquotes. But you think Joe Milton would be better because why again?
Because you don't have to have touch. It's not as important to have touch where the receiver can catch it when you're Joe Milton. He can just literally throw it as hard as he wants. And a lot of people question Joe Milton's accuracy. His accuracy wasn't as bad as the touch on the ball.
I keep thinking of that scene from Major League where the what was his name? What was the pitcher's name? What was the pitcher's name on the message board? Help me, huh?
I don't think I've seen Major League.
Oh my gosh. No. It was a Field of Dreams. Was it Crash when he hits the bull? And I think Joe Milton would probably hit the bull. As a matter of fact, can we put that new poll question? If Joe Milton was a pitcher, he would first selection be very good, second be okay, 3 hit the bull like in Field of Dreams. I don't know. That might be a little long to see that if we can fill that in there, but I certainly hope that we can. Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED for 10% off. HOOKED for 10% off. Yes, Caleb?
I think, aren't you thinking? Bull Durham, yeah.
Dad, blame it. Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm getting back in the gym, so my mind's not completely with me.
If Joe Milton was a pitcher, he would. Okay, so you said be very good.
Let's say be great, be bad, be what was his name? What was the guy's name?
Crash. Hit the bull. Hit the bull like Crash Davis.
Yeah, just say big crash from Bull Durham. Just big crash from Bull Durham.
All right. Okay, let's see.
Got some Tony Venables, or I'm sorry, Brent Venables news. Not Tony Vitello, but this one is pretty fantastic when it comes down to it, because I think it's good news for Tennessee, even though it's not happening directly to Tennessee. We'll visit on that right now as why a move in the SEC West, and I don't mean the Western Division, I mean the western part of the SEC, is affecting Tennessee. 4 downs is now.
There is no, yeah, I was going to say.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Yeah, you can't say the SEC West referring to Texas or Oklahoma. I mean, I know there's not 2 divisions, but you can't even say it. The western part of Anyway, we'll work on that. A lot of things to change as we move forward. Let's get to 4 downs. What is happening in Oklahoma and why does that matter? Cooper Mays, what do people need to do if they would like to be a part of the program on a regular basis?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, what down?
Coop here. First down.
All right. Tell me the latest on Brent Venables, Caleb Calhoun.
So, as Oklahoma moves into the SEC, the Sooners have decided to give him a new 6-year deal.
6 years. Why? And don't give me the amount yet. I want to get into the amount, and I would like to discuss the buyout if you can find that. But first, why 6 years, do you think? Because the traditional thinking has always been 5 years, because then you're telling a prospect that I will be here, even though they could fire him anyway, for as long as you are. That's the thinking, right, Caleb? So why would you think 6 years? I don't know that I've even heard of 6. I've heard of like 10. I think Nick Saban got a 10 and then a lifetime. But I don't even know that I've heard of 6. Why 6?
I don't know exactly why it is right at 6. It does. I guess they want him through the end of the decade, I think, is the way they're looking. And I believe that they just wanted to get this out of the way before they moved into the SEC, because I think there's a lot of things happening with the move into the SEC. And I think while I am not, if I'm Oklahoma, I think they're very satisfied with his 10-win season last year. I think that they think that shows are on the up and up. Now, I think that was a very overrated 10-win season. They got a very lucky win on Texas that they did not deserve. And they lost to Kansas and Oklahoma State. So I'm not high on Oklahoma, but I also think that I think they think that 10-win season meant something. I don't think it did, but that's their thought.
Well, it meant something, but you and I think it, and I agree with you, it's fluky. And that the previous year was as much of an indicator as how good of a coach Venables is going to be when they were horrid. And it's probably somewhere in the middle.
They played 3 ranked teams and they lost 3 games.
All right. So 2nd down by Cooper. Let me ask you this. How many years does Venables make it through that contract?
Oh, you didn't set up Cooper for me.
I did, but you were speaking.
I think he's done after 2.
I will agree. 2 is my number. All right.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
3rd down. Is there any chance they come calling for Josh Heupel? I want to be real clear here. I'm not shooting, just getting you riled up. That's not my goal. I will state my position. I don't think there is any tie of significance between Oklahoma and Josh Heupel. As a matter of fact, I think the connection is frayed and not great because he was fired there. Now, I think everybody likes to be back home, and home is home. Home is home for me. Home is home for you, Caleb. So if there was a complete administrative change that included Bob Stoops not being a part of the program any longer, which he is an advisor now, perhaps that door could be open. But as for now, you haven't even turned into the hallway where that door exists. Thoughts?
I think when Brent Venables struggles and Josh Heupel wins a national championship and has a Heisman quarterback in Nico over the next couple of years, I think with the SEC money that's coming in, Oklahoma is going to give Josh Heupel a king's salary. They will do whatever you offer him. They will offer him the most record contract possible to get him to Norman. And yes, I think they will cut ties with Bob Stoops. I think they will willingly, because if you're Oklahoma at this point, you say, are we really going to hold on to a guy that won us one national title 25 years ago and sacrifice getting this coach who's great now, who also, by the way, was a part of winning that national title as a quarterback? I think the athletic department will finally say, hey, Bob Stoops, why don't you pack up and move out of Norman? We really don't want you near our campus anymore. As a matter of fact, you're banned from our campus now. You're not allowed on.
They're not going to ban Bob Stoops from their campus.
I think they are going to completely ice out Bob Stoops. They would take Bob Stoops' name off any rafters that are there to get Josh Heupel in a couple of years.
Okay.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
That's a lot of ifs. Okay. Let me just ask it this way. Scale of 1 to 10. How concerned should a Tennessee fan be now that we know this news about Brent Venables and they've re-upped to him? How concerned, scale of 1 to 10, should Tennessee fans be? I would say a 2 or a 3. You seem to think it's more significant.
I actually think 2 or 3. I think Tennessee can afford to keep Josh Heupel.
Oh, okay.
I'll go 4.
You think? Okay, well, let's do this.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Would Tennessee match that? Yeah, of course they would.
Yes. And also, let's okay. Josh Heupel transferred to Oklahoma when he played for Mike Leach and Bob Stoops, but he's from South Dakota. It's not like he grew up in Norman, a diehard Oklahoma fan. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have any love for his alma mater. Of course he does. But this is Dave, you and I both know this. If Peyton Manning were an elite head coach, he wouldn't just immediately pick Tennessee. He picked the best place for him.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with a couple of comments from the message board that nailed it. Dylan says, I think Hype has made it and he's happy. I think he really clicks with Tennessee. I agree with that. I think the same thing for Tony Vitello. That's why, we reported it, but we were never really worried about Vitello going to Texas. Meade says, is a move from Tennessee to Oklahoma really that groundbreaking? Well, it would be a groundbreaking news story. What I think Meade means, and I'm not trying to type words in your mouth, but I think you mean, Meade, that would it be a big move for him? No, I think it is a lateral move. Do you not, Caleb? I mean, I think Tennessee and Oklahoma are about on the same level.
No, they're definitely on the same level, particularly now with Oklahoma in the SEC. Now, the only thing
As a matter of fact, I would have said it would be a step down before Oklahoma was in the SEC. I would have said Tennessee is a better job than Oklahoma. You?
No, I agree. The only thing I might hesitate on that, though, is, and I don't know, you can speak to this more than I have. I don't know how much but yeah, I know you didn't really cover recruiting out west. You covered it more on the east, but it seems like Oklahoma gets into Texas and plucks out talent a lot better than Tennessee does in Georgia. Not that Tennessee doesn't do it in Georgia, but Texas is almost a home state for Oklahoma recruiting, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty split. I mean, it feels, and I have covered enough prospects to have a feel for that. Robert Meacham was from Oklahoma. So, I have a feel for it, and it does kind of feel like, except for right around campus, that Oklahoma kind of feels like Chattanooga or Memphis, that there are a lot of different allegiances. And oftentimes, well, maybe more Chattanooga, because Chattanooga, it's pretty much Georgia, Alabama, or Tennessee. So you're down to 3 teams. But I could see that. I mean, I think you bring up a very good point.
Yeah, it just throws me off because, Oklahoma competes equally with Texas for Texas kids, don't they? I mean, they're on the same footing for Texas kids, it feels like, which is crazy to me.
Oftentimes. Where would you rather be? Okay, which is the better recruiting school? I know we're getting a little bit off topic here.
Where would I rather be between Austin and Norman? Austin all day.
No. Norman and Knoxville.
Oh, okay. Well, if Oklahoma and Tennessee.
See, I could make a strong argument with Atlanta nearby and the Carolinas nearby that I'd rather be in Knoxville. Because I'm gonna argue the in-state talent is slightly better in Tennessee, although I do not have facts to back that up. But
I agree with you.
I certainly will by tomorrow.
Tennessee has, you're right, they've gotten a couple of two of their three most successful receiving seasons ever were with receivers from Oklahoma. Though you mentioned Robert Meacham, Marcus, whose record did he break? Dave, was Marcus Nash, who was also from Oklahoma.
Oh, good job.
Funny enough.
Yep.
So they have had some success with a couple of kids from Oklahoma. By the way, one of the first recruiting wins I ever remember was Tennessee getting Robert Meacham out away from the Sooners, and the Oklahoma message boards, Dave, were livid. I was in high school at the time, and they felt Tennessee did something dirty to get him away from Oklahoma.
Tennessee, by the way, had 37 players that were on NFL rosters heading into the 2023 season. The state of Tennessee had 23 players. Texas led all with 187, which speaks to the point you made earlier. Florida 178, California 173, Georgia 150, Ohio State 67, North Carolina 66, Louisiana 64, Alabama 60, Pennsylvania 55, Michigan 51, Illinois 49, Maryland 48, New Jersey 39, South Carolina 39, then Tennessee 37, Virginia 36. I think you're close, maybe not yet, Caleb. I think you're close to having to backtrack on your Nashville take.
Tennessee, no, I never said Nashville doesn't have good talent, so I never did have to backtrack. One, I never said Nashville doesn't have good talent. I also never said, I've also pointed out the rest of the state has a lot of good talent. What I've said consistently is that Nashville recruits are overrated. That does not mean that there's not talent there. That means that they get way more stars than they should. And I've said this consistently. By the way, Texas recruits are overrated. Dave, Texas has the second most active NFL players right now. But that doesn't mean the recruits aren't overrated. They're just...
Well, they seem to always be overrated when Tennessee gets involved, by the way. Have you noticed that? Every Texas prospect shows up at Tennessee and either gets... Well, he either can't play or he sells weed by the pounds. I'm not going to mention that player, but you know who I'm talking about. He played defensive tackle. Go ahead.
But yeah, Texas, there's overrated doesn't mean not good. It means that you aren't as good as national media says you are often. And Nashville kids have consistently been overhyped. That does not mean Nashville kids haven't worked out, but they have been given extra stars when they shouldn't have. And that has to do with a lot with the media conglomerates being in Nashville. I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. Let's point out that I want to get back to Oklahoma real quick, though, because I don't think we covered this part. I just wanted to point out Brent Venables' contract extends through 2029, and it is a $51.6 million deal, $8.5 million annually. So it's up from $43.5 million to $51.6 million. The buyout was not clear at this point, so I'm not sure what that is. But they also extended.
Well, now I want to see the buyout, because then it could be. I mean, you can just throw numbers. I mean, it could be a 20-year contract worth $500 million with a $50,000 buyout, and it's worth $50,000.
No,
I would be interested in seeing that.
That is true. Just to throw it out there, they also extended 2 assistants, one of whom apparently is DeMarco Murray is on that staff.
Couple of things. I just want you to know, if you're on the message board from about Crystal down, Crystal, I don't understand your question. What if Lane saves Oklahoma? But a lot of good, if you can retop that in, but a lot of great questions that I want to get to that have to do with what we're talking about. How did Fulmer manage to get a top 5 class every year from 95 to 2003? Well, I'll give you the reason. Number one, their entire schedule was easier. So there were times that Philip Fulmer was able to focus more on recruiting than he had to with 2 great coordinators at the helm in John Chavis and David Cutcliffe. The other thing, he knew it. I mean, he knew he had to work it that hard, and I think Fulmer deserves an awful lot of credit. Mead Drinker says, just say Heupel did leave UT, would we target Golish? I don't think so. I think Tennessee's at the point with another couple of 10-win seasons that they would be able to target whoever they wanted to in the entire NCAA. Dylan says what Golesh did last year at USF was a miracle. Well, let's keep an eye on that, but let's see. In other words, if Josh Heupel said, I'm going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow, I think you can get bigger names than Golesh, Caleb, like big names.
Golesh may be the most in demand, though, by that point. Okay. So Tennessee may want – Danny White may want Golesh over anybody else.
Okay. Well, that would be totally cool. But just know that I know a lot of – you had the batter ball syndrome. Coaching search nowadays wouldn't be like it's been previously. You agree with that? I mean, you would get phone calls back. I think there are times they've called people and they haven't even called back.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. And then you get Gundied where he just plays you, basically, which is exactly what he did to Tennessee to get more money from Oklahoma State a number of years. Now, didn't think we'd be talking about these two guys, Caleb, on the program. But what's next, sir?
Oh, who got to watch Lane Kiffin and Antonio Brown in a Twitter war over the weekend?
Well, I did keep an eye on that. Where did all of this start? Can you remind us?
So this all started from what we did last week, where we made a joke. We talked about Kelly Stafford admitting something on air that I never really blamed her for doing it because people have their own relationship, but I just felt you don't admit that on air and humiliate your husband like that. But that's just me, okay?
By the way, everybody I talked to over the weekend agrees with that notion.
Yeah, that's almost it. Like, what I don't like to talk about personal relationship drama unless you put it on the internet, i.e., like when Jada and Will decided to put their personal marriage infidelities online. I'm like, who does that? But still, that's yeah. So I want to point out that Lane Kiffin.
Now, did we actually cause this Off the Hook Sports?
No. Lane Kiffin had already done it.
Because I know Colin Cowherd's all mad at us about something, but I don't even want to discuss that. So go ahead, Caleb. So we didn't start this. We don't want to bring hate into the world. So good. I'm glad we had nothing to do with this. But why does Lane Kiffin like to poke fun at Antonio Brown now? Can we share the tweet? Are we doing that?
Yeah, sure. We can share the tweet.
But
you want to?
Can we?
Why don't we save this for? Why don't we talk about this tomorrow?
Yeah. All right.
We got John some breaking news. We're going to save this because we got some breaking news.
All right. Breaking news. Let's do it right now. Tennessee has a new commitment. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to be a part of that. What do the Vols pick up, Caleb Calhoun? What's the latest?
So Tennessee lands Douglas Utu. This is a huge. I wouldn't have switched gears on this if this hadn't happened. This is a gigantic pickup for Tennessee football. This is one of the most underrated pickups that Josh Heupel just got. A 4-star interior offensive lineman out of Vegas. Tennessee got him over Nebraska, Oregon, Michigan, and Alabama, and Washington. Notice I just mentioned 3 college football playoff teams last year. Tennessee beat them all out for a kid from Vegas. 4-star offensive lineman. This is breaking news. This is a big deal. Douglas Utu is a huge pickup for Tennessee. I can't stress that enough. So yeah, this is he stands at 6'4", 317 pounds. Again, 4-star on 247 Sports Composite. Roughly top 100 player, depending on where you go. The number 2 ranked national interior offensive lineman. Dave, this is what we talked for 2025, by the way. This is what we talked about Josh Heupel has to do. These are the players he has to get, and he got one.
Okay. Let's take a look at where Tennessee currently ranks because the 247 updates automatically, and that ranking update where the Vols rank in recruiting for the 2025 class is brought to you by Ray Varner Ford.
Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Okay, so Tennessee has I'm going to make sure this is updated because I said they would update it, but I'm not 100% sure that they have. All right, so let me see. Currently, Tennessee with 247's composite rating, which is the one we go to, is rated 14th overall. They do have. I'm trying. I don't believe
they don't have Douglas Utu on that list yet.
I don't have Utu on there. So expect for Tennessee to jump somewhere in that 7 to 8 range by the end of the day, or once these composite rankings are updated across the board. Now, remember, they have to be updated by each individual, 247, blah, blah, blah. And it might take a little bit of time. But once they get those up there, that should be a top 7, 8 class. I will argue that that's even if Tennessee ends in the top 7 or 8, that's better than they need to with the transfer portal. I never thought I would say this, but a top 15 class and 5th or 6th in the SEC with what Tennessee has in terms of coaches, player development, scheme, and what they can do in the transfer portal. The Vols don't have to be top 5 in recruiting, and I would have argued that till I was blue in the face before the transfer portal, no question.
Yeah, I agree. And there's the transfer portal, and also I've always felt that elite coaching can, like, if you have a superb game planner, you can turn top 10 classes into national title teams. Sure. I think with an elite game planner. Yeah, and Josh Heupel is an elite coach. I think we agree an elite play caller. But then you're right, you bring in the transfer portal, and it's a big difference. Tennessee is this is huge. That's why this is such a big deal for Tennessee. You're right. This is going to push them into the top 10. And I want to also point out Douglas Utu, Dave, again, a nationally rated 4-star offensive lineman from Vegas. Not an in-state guy, by the way. Not like some pipeline or connection. Josh Heupel went to Vegas to get this guy. Okay, I don't know if I can stress that enough, how big of a deal that is. One connection real quick. Cedric Tillman, I believe, went to Bishop Gorman High School where Douglas Utu came from in Vegas.
Yes,
I wonder if that helps.
Right. So I was going to mention that there was a connection. So this is where the Nikos and the Tillmans help you out in recruiting. And goodness gracious, I've covered a lot of recruiting, but this is, you start to build those pipelines. And I think that Philip Fulmer did that. So that question earlier that somebody had, how did Philip Fulmer get top 5 classes for 7 years? That was a big part of it. You know, he could always fall back on a guy and say, hey, I need to get, I need a defensive tackle, anybody in the area that you see that's better than maybe you thought. And let's face it, and Tennessee gets the benefit of the doubt in a lot of recruiting rankings because they've traditionally been a good recruiting school that one decade withstanding. Dylan says, is this the start of a poly pipeline? Guys, I was told Nico Maleava was not a big active recruiter for Tennessee because he had volleyball season. Now, it still had an impact that he committed, and Tennessee picked up commitments after him, but he wasn't the type of quarterback who goes out and chases other commitments. However, he didn't need to. When you're Polynesian and you commit somewhere, don't think that other Polynesians who are just so about family and about trust and about all the right things in life, don't think they didn't take note of that. When the number 1 Polynesian in the 2023 class committed to Tennessee, you don't have to build a pipeline. They're taking note of that. And they're like, Jackson Moya's like, I'm going to take a look at Tennessee. And by the way, I've reported already on the show, but I'll report it again. Jackson Moya will be the surprise player of Tennessee's defense and maybe the entire team this year. Caleb, the pipeline is there because Nico just said yes. You didn't have to build it.
And then Keenan Peely starting too, by the way, back in. I mean, you're right.
And Keenan Peely is the most undervalued right now in your mind, Tennessee fan. The most undervalued player on the team is Keenan Peely. Trust me.
So do you think this is, and this is my honest question, and I don't want to be like raining on parades, but do you think because of these established pipelines, the Polynesian connections, the Cedric Tillman to Vegas connection, do you think this is less impressive of a get for Heupel to go national and get a 4-star over these other schools? Do you think that's less impressive than getting David Sanders would be? Put it that way.
Yes. I mean, but David Sanders is the number one offensive tackle. But I'm not arguing with anything you said, though. I think it's very impressive. But I think you used the Tillman connection to get him. And Sanders, to me, would be he would be the biggest pickup other than Nico under Josh Heupel. So you're comparing it to pretty
That's fair. That's fair. This is like when they even though he ended up going somewhere else, when they used the Kevin Simon pipeline to get Henry To'oTo'o. Funny enough.
Yeah.
And
very good.
I think that was a big reason they got him. Which is it's funny because it's crazy that they're building a American Samoa Polynesian pipeline right now, given how much Tennessee fans hated To'oTo'o after he left. Hated him. And
why did Tennessee not have a pipeline before? Why did they have to wait for Nico to get one? Because every Polynesian football family saw Henry To'oTo'o transfer from Tennessee to Alabama.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's true.
I mean, Alabama didn't have to tell anybody. They just said, this guy shows up on campus and we're probably going to get a couple of more Polynesian players and Tennessee's going to get less. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's noticed. I promise you that. It absolutely is noticed. Caleb, give me a rundown of where Tennessee ranks now and your thoughts, Caleb, on their recruiting as a whole.
Tennessee right now has moved up. They moved up only 2 spots with the pickup of Douglas Utu, by the way. They're now number 12 on 247 Sports Composite. So that has so they have moved.
They're adjusted, so they're not quite as high as I had them then.
Right. I don't understand how but this doesn't make sense because they're scored higher than Penn State or Rutgers. Oh, that's the average scoring. Okay, so I look, they're really number 10. Okay, they're really number 10. Rutgers is listed ahead of everybody. A lot of people. Rutgers is at number 9.
Rutgers has about 58 3-stars last I looked.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why they're number 9. But 58 3-stars should not qualify a top 10 class. So Tennessee's really number 11 when you take that into account.
Here's the way that rankings work. If you're a 3-star, you can have a big pile of scrap wood over here, but I would rather have a nice 2x4s and fewer of them to build my deck than a big pile of scrap wood that I can't do anything with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how they do. By the way, that's how they do 3-stars. And it's an old school method with scholarship limits that I don't think matters anymore. By the way, I don't know if you guys know history, but the reason Johnny Majors won his national title at Pitt in '76 is Johnny Majors manipulated the no scholarship limit rule at the time, and Johnny Majors signed like a 100 deep class his first year at Pittsburgh, which was the class that had Tony Dorsett in it, which is really funny. But that's what Rutgers is doing with Greg Schiano right now, is they're just loading up on 3-stars. But so in reality, Tennessee has a number 11 class. I think it's going to get higher because, again, I mean, look, David Sanders Jr. and Isaiah Gibson, they're right around the corner. And Dave, if Tennessee lands those 2, we're looking at a 6 or 7 class at that point, right? Maybe even 5.
Absolutely. Hang tight. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We've got more, including a surprise. We have a live report from Omaha, Nebraska. That's right. Hang tight with me as we'll talk some diamond balls to close out the show. Stay tuned. Off the Hook Sports.
Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Experience it all at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. Need a quick fix or maintenance? Visit our Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. Keep your Ford running smoothly with the experts in our service department. Ready for your next Ford? Our sales team is here to guide you to this 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
One of the great parts about having Lane Kiffin in the SEC is that if you're ever waiting for your live update from Omaha, Nebraska, and we'll get that here momentarily, you can always talk about Lane Kiffin. First, let's hit up the poll question. Can you reset that, Caleb Calhoun?
What do you want me to reset it to?
Oh, no, just can you give me what's the answers? What do we got going on?
Who won the Lane Kiffin Antonio Brown Twitter feud? Let's go with that.
Well, no, first, what's the
what's the results? Okay, if Joe Milton was a pitcher, he would be great 38%, bad 25%, crash from Bull Durham 38%.
He'd be crash from Bull Durham. Is that a little bit mean?
A plurality believes that, so.
Enough. All right, hit that like and subscribe button. Tennessee picks up commitment as the Vols now have how many commitments, and give us an update on Tennessee's latest pickup, which we reported a little bit earlier.
They now have, as far as I'm aware, they have 14 commitments to this point.
14 commitments, and Tennessee picks up?
Douglas Utu, a 4-star out of Vegas.
No relation to Ethan Utley, even though those names sound slightly familiar. No relation. All right, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. Lane Kiffin gets in a Twitter war with Antonio Brown. How does that happen? I will discuss that, as we love us some Lane Kiffin from time to time. But this guy joins us now, Zach Air from Sports Treasures. He is in Omaha, Nebraska. Zach, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. A little warm. Today.
Yeah, I bet you are. Zach, give us your thoughts on Tennessee in the first couple of games.
Uh-oh. Zach?
Oh, I think we might be losing Zach. Zach, can you hear us? I think we've lost Zach. Too many baseball fans in the air. Let's give it one last chance. Zach, can you hear us? Oh, my apologies. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Tennessee could win a national championship tonight. Hit the button, like, and subscribe. Please don't forget to join Hooker's Corner. If we can put that in the message board, I would greatly appreciate that, Caleb, if you don't mind doing that. A great opportunity to win some fantastic prizes. And we have a brand new promotion that we want to get out there, and we're super excited about that. We'll mention that.
For those wondering who came for it, we changed up Lane Kiffin and Antonio Brown because of the recruiting news. Don't worry, we'll still have some fun with it on our next show.
He's Caleb Calhoun.